Hello, Mr. Rabab. Hi, Miss Nasreen. How are you?
How are you, Mr. Muhammad? How's everything?
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really happy.
It's my pleasure. If I know about the last session, I would join, but I didn't know about the first CB.
Thank you so much.
So I'm here today, inshallah.
Thank you so much. I will wait for 1 to 2 minutes and then I will start immediately. Okay?
Okay, feel free.
Thank you. Okay, I think I have to start so that we don't lose our time. I just only want to be sure that you can see my screen right now. Is it there for everyone?
Yes, yes. So,
okay,
yes.
Thank you. Let's say first that our lesson for today is titled The Big Picture. What do you think this lesson could be about? What type of questions would it be about?
I think it's about literature.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes. Okay. So it relates more to reading than to language. You're right. Okay. What else? What type of questions? Can you imagine how would a question that relates to this title look like?
Can I answer?
Yes, please.
I think it could be about the main idea of the whole topic.
Very good. It could be about the main idea of a certain text. Very good. Or paragraph. Perfect. Bravo, Mr. Rabab. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Here, I will show you just a video, one that I took myself. And the speaker in this video is, again, me. I was in Romania on a trip, and I took that video while I was there on a mountain range. Here we have a question next to the video. I want you to read the question first. The main purpose of the author in this video is to describe how tiring his trip to a mountain range is, to show how much he is fascinated with the surrounding beauty of nature, to describe how cold the weather is on that day, or to thank Allah for his creativity, originating nature and the whole universe. After watching the video, I want you to choose one of the answers, okay?
Okay.
الجو تلج قوي قوي 15 تحت الصفر هنا جميل قوي قوي فظيع ايه ده اعلى نقطة في العالم دي ولا ايه؟ جميلة ساموي جنبي مش هتكلم Well, I think this is enough. Yani, I won't show you the whole video because it's a long one. But what do you think about the answer now after watching the video?
B. To show
See,
how much he's fascinated
I
uh,
think it's
with the
B.
surrounding.
with the
Yes.
beauty of nature.
Yeah.
Okay,
Me too. I
you're
think
right.
it's B.
You're right, by the way, Mr.
Yeah, because I'm fascinated too.
Well, every time I watch this video, yani, I have certain feelings that sometimes lead me to
You
tear
feel
after
happiness,
watching it. Yeah,
joy inside you.
I was so
Yeah.
happy, even though it was
Yeah, yeah. I'd like to go to a place like this.
direct. Okay, so my question now, Mrs. Nasreen, what led you to choose this answer? What made you choose this exact answer?
The speaker's attitude about the weather and how beautiful it was. So
Yes.
that's why I chose. He was fascinated with the nature and what happens there.
But don't you think that the speaker here mentioned Allah in a way or another and his creativity, originating nature, and the whole universe? Why did you choose B and not D, for example?
As for me, I think that we all appreciate what God gave us and all the gifts we had from God because it's all around us. But when you're in a place just like this, you're not just um, praising God for what He gives you. You're just enjoying yourself with the beauty of nature in this place, especially.
Okay,
So that's why I chose it.
you are
Yeah.
right. You are right, Mrs. Nasreen, and thank you so much for this answer. Let me tell you something before we go through our lesson today. In life and in general, we have to think of what could be general more than thinking of details. We have to do that kind of leap from what is concrete, details I mean, to what is general, to the whole picture in order to reach the purpose behind everything that is around. Okay? Um, okay, let's move to the next slide. How to approach big picture questions in SAT test or reading test. Let's say first that a common question type on the SAT reading test is the big picture question. These questions are designed to test your reading comprehension skills across the text entirety. So you will need to understand the majority of the passage in order to answer the big picture questions. And this is why you may keep questions like these, even if they appear first on test paper until the end, until you answer the rest of the questions that relate to a certain passage. Then go and answer the big picture questions. Okay. Uh, The general task for answering big picture questions involve reading an entire passage and providing the text big ideas and main points. Don't try to answer questions like these immediately from first sight. No, you have to read carefully and read the majority of the whole text and then answer questions like these. The idea is we as human beings generally look into details more than we look for the whole picture. And this is a mistake. Imagine it, you are reading a certain passage and you face a difficult word while reading. What happens? You stop, you don't continue. But if you jump over this word and continue reading, I guess you would understand easily what is there. Sometimes the meaning of the word is in the context, and you are not in need to stop at each and every word to check its meaning or feel a kind of an anxiety because there is a difficult word or so. What type of questions are asked when it comes to the big picture? There are three main types. The first question type focuses on the specific purpose of the passage. These questions will ask you to point or pinpoint how the paragraph or phrase functions in the text. So this is one type. The second type deals with the author's point of view. Exactly like the video I have shown you in the beginning of this session. These questions will ask you to display a kind of understanding of how an author's attitude affects the whole passage. And the third type of question are ones that ask about rhetorical strategies or writing styles. Why do you believe the author decided to do a certain thing, ask a certain question at a certain point, give an example at a certain point of the text? They are often more abstract than questions that ask about the purpose of parts of the text. And these questions often deal with how two paired passages interact. Sometimes you have what is called a paired passage. And in this type of passages, you have to compare two reading passages. They are a little bit shorter than the other single passages in an SAT test. And you have to mention how they look similar, how they could be different, and so on. What they have in common and what they have maybe that could be different. Big picture questions in a test may look like this. This paragraph primarily serves two. So you may be asked this question: what is the primary purpose for a certain paragraph? Which of the following statements would the author of this text agree with? And which best describes the relationship between passage 1 and passage 2? Here, there is a quick tip that I want you always to follow while answering big picture questions. You have to scan the questions before reading the passage to see what kinds of main points will be asked about later. Then, as you read the text, look for the big ideas. At the end of my session, I'll give you more tips answering questions like these, and there might be one tip that contradicts what I'm saying now. I want you to remind me about it when it comes. Let's say that while these questions are worded in a straightforward manner, questions asking about the purpose and so, they can also be challenging because they require like a leap or jump from the concrete details to an understanding of broader meanings. Right. There are always like two steps that you have to take in order to answer big picture questions. First of all, you have to identify the topic of the whole passage, because most probably the topic as title or so, or word must be mentioned in one of the choices that are considered right. So you have to identify the topic, and this is one skill that we'll practice today and study. And then, text. Why is that text written? So two steps must be taken. Let's start with the first step, identifying a topic. I want you to look at the example on my screen right now. And this example is sent to you on the WhatsApp group in screenshot number 1. If you are able to read it from my screen, it's okay. If it's difficult, you can open the WhatsApp group and find screenshot number 1 and read it from there. I want you to go through it. I know that already the topic is highlighted, but here it is highlighted in different ways. Sometimes it appears as a noun, sometimes it appears as a pronoun, sometimes it appears like in a scientific word, and so on. Try to find out what is the topic of this text. Okay, so what is the topic of this passage?
The effects of citrus greening.
Okay. How many words have you spoken now, Mr. Ahmed? The effects of citrus greening. Do you think that this is the topic? The topic most probably is like a phrase or 1 to 2 words. Huh. You are very close, by the way. You mentioned the topic, but you put it in like a sentence. I don't want the purpose of the whole text. I just want the topic.
Citrus greening.
Very good. That's it. Citrus greening. So citrus greening is the topic of this text. This text is written about citrus greening. So citrus greening only, nothing more. This is the topic. If you check the text carefully, you will notice that citrus greening is highlighted, and I highlighted it in purpose. I just want you to see how many times citrus greening is mentioned in this text. In the first line, citrus greening is mentioned. It is mentioned again with another noun.
One time.
It's called the plague. Later, it is called bacterial disease. Few lines later, and in the second paragraph, the pronoun it refers back to citrus greening. Citrus greening is repeated again. Hyung Long Bing is a Chinese name for the disease. The word disease is mentioned later, and so on. So as you can see, citrus greening and many other nouns that refer back to the same disease that affects plants appeared in the whole text. So the topic can be found easily when you check the whole text and see what is repeated more than what topic or what thing is repeated more than the others. Okay? You can try this. Yes, you can try this later after I finish with any page in any book. Just open it and see what is repeated on that page the most, and this is the topic of that page. Okay? So this is one strategy that would help you to find the topic in any reading passage. Let's move to the next step. I want you to check all this question. The reference to yellow leaves and green, sour, and hard organs in line 6 to 9 of the passage primarily serves to. You have 4 choices. Check them carefully, and then check the text one more time and try to find the answer.
Yeah, it's A. That described some effects of citrus greening.
Very good. And if you notice, Mr. Ahmed, you will see that citrus greening as a topic is mentioned in choice A. Okay?
Choice A.
Yes, very good. So the only answer that directly refers to the passage topic is A, which is correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Second step in any reading passage, and in order to answer big picture questions, is to find what is the point behind a reading passage. And the point of a passage, as we have said, is the primary idea that the author wants to convey or to transport or transfer to his readers. Let's say first, or begin by saying what a main point is not. And take care, because I highlighted is not. So I'm going to say that, yes, I'm going to say that the main point is not the topic. So the main point can be 1 or 2 words only. Also, the main point is not a theme or a message like oppression or overcoming. It can be a theme or a message again, like oppression or overcoming. The main point must be one full long sentence that includes the topic. So main point is not the topic. It includes the topic. This is right. And it is not a theme or a message behind the text. In order to find the main point, you can use the formula that I will show on the bottom of my slide now. So a topic plus so what, that question, so what, equal to the main point. So topic plus so what equal the main point. Right. Here is another text. I want you all, but this time I will divide you into groups to read the text and decide what is the main point behind it. So you are not going to mention the topic only. You will mention a full sentence. That full sentence tells about the topic and so what. This
Can I
text,
ask a question, Mr. Ahmed, Mr. Muhammad?
yes, I'm sorry.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
So to find the main point, I have to find the point, the topic, and ask myself, so what? And the answer will be the main point, right?
Yes, very good.
Okay.
Thank you so much. You have 2 minutes in order to read and find out, okay?
Find the main point.
Yes.
The Clovis culture, right?
Yes. Maybe the culture, not the culture. You have to find yourself.
Yes. Clovis artifacts.
Okay. What is the topic of this passage then?
The Clovis culture? Or no?
The topic is the Clovis, okay? If you check, you will notice that the Clovis people is the one that is mentioned a lot here. Yes, Mr. Rabab.
Sorry, I want to answer, not to ask.
Okay, go on.
Hey,
So I think the main point
Huh.
of the text here are the resources and the evidence about the ages or the times for the people who lived before the Clovis.
the Clovis.
Okay.
I think.
But do you think that the Clovis or those people who were living in America at a certain time of age are the topic? The Clovis,
Yeah, I think it is the
those
topic.
people are the topic? Yes or no?
Um,
Huh.
I'm confused. According to the text in front of me, this short text,
Huh?
I think it is the topic, the Clovis.
Yes,
But if it
Clovis
is a
as
part
people.
of,
By the way, Clovis as people, not as
yeah,
culture. Maybe
yeah,
culture, but
yeah, as
only
people,
people, the people, the Clovis as people. If you check
as
the highlighted
people, yeah,
line or the underlined lines I showed on my screen right now, you have the word band of people, the first Americans, Clovis, Clovis culture, that people, Clovis again, Clovis. So the topic must be the Clovis, okay? Clovis
yeah.
people, I mean. What about the main purpose of this passage? Why is it written? Ms. Rabab again.
I think it is written to focus on
Mhm.
the evidence and resources about
What
other people lived before the Clovis.
what did these researchers say about the Clovis, Ms. Rabab? What did they mention?
They mentioned that they are not only the old people to be living at that time.
It
There are
mentions,
older people or
They
yes.
are living in the north and the south
Bravo,
of
yeah, Ms.
America.
Rabab, bravo. Bravo, Mr. Ahmed, the same. Let me say something. These researchers said that the Clovis weren't the first to exist in the area of America. There were others whom preceded them, whom were there before the Clovis. People
Before
used to
them.
think that the Clovis were the first to be there, but in reality, it's not them. There were other people that preceded them in the area. Okay? Very good.
Yeah.
Now you understand the purpose of this passage. Let me move to another slide.
Yes.
Many students are not entirely clear on the difference between describing the content of a passage and summarizing its argument. Yeah, sometimes if you are teaching this lesson to students, they may start to mention the details. They may mention something about the artifact that were left behind the Clovis, for example, or others. They may mention something about researches only. They may tell you about the details in the text, but they don't reach the main point. Describing a content and recounting the information in a certain text is not the main point. Mentioning that X happened first and then Y and then Z or Z, that doesn't mean that you are mentioning the main point. You are recurring and repeating the details of the text, which is not the main point. Okay? Summarizing an argument is reaching the main point. And if you are able to reach that point, you are a one who made that leap or jump from the details and the concrete to the general idea and the purpose and the main idea of the text. In order to make this leap, as I've said, that jump, you must be able to separate the larger, more important ideas, which usually appear at the beginning and the end of a paragraph. Sometimes, if you read the beginning and the end of a certain text, especially when it's non-fictional piece of writing or passage, you may find the thesis statement, which is always one that includes the main idea. So reading the beginning and the end of a certain text may help you to reach the main idea quickly. You don't have to read every single paragraph. And if you decide to gather more information, you can read the first and second lines of each paragraph in order to be sure that nothing is missing. Because the first line of any paragraph is like a topic sentence that includes the main idea of that paragraph. So without reading every single detail, you can reach it easily, okay? So if you are asked this question, you may read the introduction and the conclusion, first and second line of each paragraph, and by doing so, you can answer this question. New evidence shows the first inhabitants of Americas were not Clovis people. If you read the text, you will find this. You will notice also how this version just hits the big idea and omit the details of, or all of the details that were mentioned in the passage. The argument summary, the whole text can be summarized in CP or Clovis people equal not first Americans. So as you can see, any student may write this on his test paper. CP, Clovis people equal not or are not first Americans. Even it can be written short like this, just to be there and just to put it in mind, okay? You don't have to write full sentences on your test paper, of course, because this would be a kind of losing time. Right, let's do practice number 1. Here there is a text, and this is screenshot number 4. It is there on the WhatsApp group if you are unable to read from my screen. I want you to answer the first question only. What is the main idea of this passage? Okay, you can discuss it loudly together if you wish, as if you are in a breakout room. And just read first and then discuss it. And let me hear, what would you say, Yani? What have you reached while reading? Read the question, number 1 first, and then read the passage and try to find out what is the main idea of it. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You can discuss the answer together.
I think it is not number B.
Okay.
I actually read the beginning of the text and the end of it quickly. So I can cancel number B from the choices according to my understanding. And what
Yeah,
about the others? I don't think so.
Okay.
Mm, and C. I cannot choose A or D. I don't know about Mr. Ahmed and Mrs. Jihan. What do you think?
I think it's D.
Yeah, I'm still confused between A and D.
What about you, Mrs. Jihan? What do you think?
Also still confused, but I think for me it's D.
Okay. Okay, let me say that the right answer for question number one is C. Ms. Rabab
C.
was right. She mentioned the right answer. She was able to exclude the wrong answers. Maybe there was something that related to bytes, pictures, and so, but these were only examples that would tell you what technology reached at the moment or at our age. Ms. Rabab mentioned something very important in the beginning. She said that she read the introduction, and by the way, the first paragraph is a long one. So you may read the last
Yeah.
lines or the first few lines of this paragraph. You don't have to read it as a whole. And you may read also the bottom of the second paragraph. This would help you in order to reach the right answer again. Okay, I will discuss with you why is it C and not any other answer later after you try to answer question number two. So try one more time in 2 minutes to answer question number two. Here, it's about second paragraph only, not the whole passage. Okay, have you reached the answer? Yes. What do you think? You may speak your minds loudly, no problem.
C. Again.
Technological innovation is often inspired? No, this is not the right answer. Ms. Rabab,
Um,
Mr.
I think
Mr.
it is. I think it's B,
Okay,
but I'm not sure.
and what about you, Mrs. Jihan?
I think B as well. I don't know, not sure.
You think it's what?
It's B, I think
B.
B,
Okay.
but I'm
Yani
not
as
sure.
long
Actually,
as
I'm not sure.
yes, as long as two answer B and one C, so the right answer must be B. You're right. Okay. Let me tell you something, Yani, before we move to the reason why, the reasons after choosing C and D. This is one of the most difficult lessons, by the way. Yani, I'm sorry to mention it, and I decided to choose it while I know it's difficult and even difficult to explain. But to tell the truth, I always yani, want to challenge myself. This is why I chose this lesson and decided to add more information yani, about it. I'll move to the second slide.
Actually, you added a lot.
Thank you so much, Mr. Allah. Let me tell you in the first question, why did we choose C? To find the answer to this question, you have to focus on the end of the passage, exactly in the same way Mrs. Rabab thought, the place where the author describes the true significance of all the technology he's described. The point is that big data allows people to see the big picture and to identify relationships between seemingly unrelated phenomena. The correct answer must be related to that idea in some way. A is very specific. So again, it's about details and it doesn't tell about the general or the main picture. referring only to bytes, which was there in the text as a kind of example. Likewise, choice D focuses on science fiction, which is discussed in only a small part of the passage. If you still remember what I've said about the topic. So again, this is a minor detail. It's not the main idea. C is much more general and consistent. It works well with the overall focus of the passage, the fact that new technology has changed the way data is acquired through bytes detail and analyzed to reveal hidden relationships. So this is why we chose C in first question. In the second one, the key to answering this question is to understand that the author uses the tree and balloon metaphors, or metaphorically. So the balloon here refers to the big picture, and the tree is as well. He's essentially saying that until now, people have only been able to examine various events in isolation, but that with massive data sets, we will be able to understand the big picture. Massive data, when they are put together, they form the whole thing, okay? The big picture, as I have said. So going into details, looking into details, without looking at the whole picture from distance won't help, okay? This is the main idea again of the whole lesson. This is the last practice, by the way, the last question in our session. And I want to do it because it's of a different form of texts. This text is like literature. It's like part of a novel or so. So this is a different type. It's fictional text. In fictional text, I will just mention one small thing, and then I will let you go and try to answer this question, and then we'll discuss it. In any fictional test, there are like, that appears in SAT test, there are two parts, beginning and end. There is no middle, by the way. Something happens in the beginning, which may lead to a certain end. So take every literature passage in this way. Sometimes you will find that the literature passage itself is divided into two parts. First paragraph and second paragraph only, two long paragraphs. And that tells you about the line that divides any literature passage or fictional one, beginning and end. I just want you here to read this passage, and before doing this, you can check the question, which choice best summarizes the passage. This is in screenshot 5 on the WhatsApp group. If you want to read it from there, it's okay. If you want to read it from my screen, this would work again. Take your time, and because it's a long passage, you may take like 4 minutes. 4 minutes only, and then we'll discuss together the answer. I may give you like a small hint. Try to play the positive negative game here. If you still remember, we mentioned something before in our course about the positive negative game when it comes to vocabulary and meanings of words in context and so on. Try to do something similar while you are dealing with this question. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Would you please tell me what you have noticed or what you have read? What have you understood? The general idea of the text, what is it about? Don't continue reading. Just say what you have gathered out of this passage.
The girl is writing a reflection and the contemplation.
Okay.
I read the last part and noticed that she is describing the writings of the other girls around.
Okay. So, type. Let me ask you one direct question. How was the feeling of the girl in the beginning of the text? Was it positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive. Yes, bravo. Which lines shows that, Mr. Ahmed?
This feeling was negative at the end of the story.
Okay. Type. Try to exclude the choices that included a negative feeling in the beginning of the text. يعني for example, choice A character is apprehensive about attending new school but is reassured by her teacher. Apprehensive is a word that means
No.
being anxious or so it's a negative meaning. So as we know, and as you have said, Mr. Ahmed, she was to an extent interested and happy and so on. So A must be excluded. Check D. Was there anything about a kind of admiration for her teacher? A character
No.
admires her teacher, but is disappointed by her teacher's reaction to her. Was there anything about a kind of reaction from the teacher towards the girl?
No, no.
No. So A and D
No.
must be excluded.
No.
Now we are between B
Yes.
and C. Character is
B and
excited
C.
about attending a new school, but struggles to make friends. Was she struggling to make friends?
Actually,
Huh.
no.
No,
No, of
I
course.
didn't get the feeling.
Yes, and she was, as Mr. Ahmed said, she was anxious, or as you have said, Mr. Rabab, she was anxious after observing her classmates reading their essays. Why? It was mentioned in the text. She believed that their text was full of like jokes or so on, but her is not. Her, as she mentioned, was one in which she's speaking true things of her life. Uh, she said at the end, I began to wonder about what I had written, for it was the opposite of playful. She wasn't making jokes or fun. She was direct, straightforward, telling truths about herself and her life. And it was the opposite of imaginative. Again, what I had written was heartfelt, and except for the very end, it was all too true. So again, this is her point of view about her writing against to the writing of her class peers or so. So the right answer here is C. Okay.
C.
I want you alone to read that kind of explanation for the last question we did together. It includes all what we have said right now, but just read it so that it would stick to your minds. Read it silently alone.
Okay.
Okay, I think you have done reading. All of the ideas in
Yes.
the explanation are ones that we have mentioned already. Okay.
Yeah, you have mentioned it clearly.
Yes. So let's move. Uh, Here are some strategies for success with the big picture questions. Think independently. As I've told you in the beginning of the session, instead of reading the question with the multiple choices, it could be a strategy, but an opposing strategy is to read first, guess what that passage is about, what is the topic, and what is the main purpose, so what, and then try to see whether what you have in mind is there in the answers or not. If it's there, you should be sure that it's the right answer without being confused by lots of answers that could be very close to what is mentioned in the text. This is the first tip. Second tip, look for the main points in the introduction and conclusion paragraphs. This is what Mrs. Rabab did, really. She did it in two of the passages we talked about today. So this is something very important, most probably when it comes to non-fictional passages. When it comes to fictional passages, matters are different and you have to read more. Third tip, pay attention to transitions and relationships, words like meanwhile, similarly, but, in comparison, and so on. All of these words may show you something and it's different or opposite. And these are important words because at which ideas change, move from one direction to the other. So put these words in consideration while reading. They are important words. That's it for our today. This is the end of our long session. I'm sorry, the topic itself is long, and I wanted to give you every little detail about it. I hope that my lesson counted for every one of you. And thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. You have helped us with a very difficult lesson. I got the feeling that you are trying to help us not just to make your video or your TP. I have learned a lot of tips here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
It was
Mr.
very
Rabab.
beautiful from you, Mr. Muhammad.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mrs. Jehan. And I'm sorry, yani, because it was elongated. Thank you so much. See you,
نعم.
inshallah.